My name's Vani Jain. I'm a junior doctor at the Leicester Royal Infirmary, and I'm here to talk to you in this podcast about what we know about cancer and how we know that the risk of developing it can be inherited. Cancer is a term used for diseases in which abnormal cells divide without control, and there are many different types of cancer depending on which tissue or organ they come from. For example, cancer that begins in the cells of the large bowel is called colon cancer. Normally, body cells grow and divide in a very controlled way to produce more cells as they're needed by the body. And when cells become old or damaged, they are either repaired or they die and are replaced with new cells. This all occurs in a very controlled way, and it means that damaged cells don't divide. Sometimes this process goes wrong, and cells don't die like they normally should and continue to divide and make new cells even though the body doesn't require them. If these extra cells form a mass of tissue, this can lead to the development of a tumour. For cells to divide when they shouldn't, the genetic material or DNA of a cell needs to be damaged or altered in some way, and these changes are called mutations. If a particular cell accumulates enough of these mutations, this mutated cell can then develop the ability to divide without control. The abnormal cells can also develop the ability to spread to other parts of the body, for example through the blood system, and this explains why cancer can spread to many different sites in a process that we call metastases. Cancer is quite a common illness, with about 1 in 3 people in the UK being diagnosed with cancer at some point during their lifetime. Most people who get cancer are over the age of 65, and it is relatively rare for young people under the age of 50 to get cancer. The cancers that occur in older individuals are called sporadic, and this is due to mutated cells dividing, as was explained earlier on, but these mutations accumulate in cells over many years, and if a particular cell acquires enough of these, it can then become cancerous. This is the case with most cancers, and if you have only one elderly relative with cancer in your family, you're not usually at a significantly increased risk of getting the same cancer yourself. People sometimes think that several cases of cancer in a family may be connected and that they have inherited an increased risk of developing cancer, but actually only a minority of cancers, approximately 5 to 10%, or less than every 1 in 10 cases, are clearly linked to inherited change in the DNA. DNA is made up of many small packets of information called genes, and we all inherit a set of genes from each of our parents. This includes genes that are important in the control of cell repair and replication that are called cancer susceptibility genes, and when functioning normally, they don't increase the risk of cancer developing. Inherited or familial cancers are seen when there is a mutation in one of these cancer susceptibility genes. This mutated gene can be passed from generation to generation, and those who carry it have an increased risk of developing cancer at some point in their life. More than one mutation is needed for cancer to develop, so inheriting a cancer susceptibility gene doesn't necessarily mean that that person is ever going to develop cancer, and it doesn't mean that they have cancer at that point, but they are at an increased risk of developing certain types of cancer, and this particular risk is higher than the normal population. The discovery of inherited cancer susceptibility genes and an increased understanding of their role in disease has meant there are now predictive gene tests available. These can determine whether an individual with a strong family history of cancer is at increased risk of developing the disease. If you have any concerns about cancer within your family, please don't hesitate to contact the Leicester Genetics Department. The telephone number is 0116 258 5736. Thank you very much for listening.